Hi, everybody. This is Richard Sachs. We're on Lost Arts Radio. It's nice to be back with you. Thanks for listening. And got a great show that I didn't know that we'd have the privilege of doing until recently. And a listener had asked me to please have Jeanice Barcelo on, and that was a person that I didn't know yet. It's really hard to keep up with all the great people that are emerging in different parts of the world. And I wanted to find out. So I looked up a video, and I just happened to get one called Birth Trauma and the Dark Side of Modern Medicine, which, of course, we talk about a lot. And so I watched that, finally got a chance about 2 months after I got sent it, and it was fantastic. And I thought really important, and it fits into it's very relevant with what's happening in the world right now, because not only is the fabric of human society under attack and trying to distance people from each other and make them understand that they're dirty and so is everybody else, and you should be afraid all the time, especially of other people, but also of yourself, and it just goes on and on. But where it starts is when people first come into the physical world, and have a chance to live through this particular costume that you get tied to with all the nervous system connected to your consciousness and everything. It's a 9-month process. And during that process, more or less 9 months, at the end of it, there's all kinds of traumatic things that happen that don't have to happen that way. And it's part of the system that we've talked about a lot called medicine and science euphemistically. I mean, it really doesn't live up to those terms in any real sense, but that's what it's called these days. Everything is called things different than what they actually are. Mm-hmm. So I thought, wow, this is a topic that needs to be talked about, and I agreed with the listener that we should have Jeanice on, and we're fortunate enough to do that. So this is going to be a really not only interesting and fast-moving talk, but relevant to the people who are expecting children now or in the future, an activity that is highly discouraged at the moment by current activities of our rulers. And yet there are still people that are bringing kids into the world. Fortunately, the race is not over yet. And for those that are coming in, there are things that parents can do to give the kids a much better start and save them from some common bad experiences. So we're going to learn a lot about that. Thanks for being here, Jeanice. I appreciate your time very much.
I am so glad to be here. And that was such a beautiful opening, Richard. Thank you. I think this is one of the most important topics that we could be talking about, not just for the future children, but also for an understanding of what's been done to us. And
yeah, exactly. So you have a chance to recover from it.
Exactly. We have to heal.
What I want to do, because one of our themes is to try to bring in people that would not normally be all the time in this kind of an audience, that may know nothing about what we're talking about, and make them included too, so there's no prerequisite knowledge. And one of the things that makes it, more real is if you can just spend a couple of minutes going back before you were doing this kind of stuff, and why did you get interested in it, what happened, and how did that evolve for you? Because I didn't really give your background.
Well, my background is complex. I'm 62 now, and let me start by saying I had a very mainstream life, working in law firms in New York City, and first working as a legal secretary, and then in a supervisory position, and making very good money and all that whole stuff, okay?
Right.
And then I had some spiritual experiences that made it really impossible for me to continue doing that work. I then met my husband, and we became pregnant very, very quickly. And I loved him so much. Like, that was a very, very deep love.
Right.
That I had never experienced anything like that before. But our baby was born dead.
Wow, okay.
And she ended up in a neonatal intensive care unit on their machines. And I almost died trying to give birth to her. We ended up at 2 different hospitals. It was like massive trauma, more than most people could really fathom happening at one time. And
let me just interject. If the baby was born dead, why did they put her on machines?
Well, when the ambulance was called, they got her going. or that's
resuscitation did happen.
Resuscitation, and then putting her on life support.
Okay.
To keep her going, to keep her body alive.
Right.
What I witnessed them doing to my baby was horrific. And it changed my life forever. Simply because I was beginning to not only remember what they had done to me by watching what they were doing to her, but also I was beginning to sense that there was a satanic energy present. And I was raised Catholic. I'm not Christian in the strongest sense of the word. I am very, very spiritually oriented and have a very personal relationship with the Creator and with creation, and a deep love for both. And it was the first time in my life that I had become conscious that there really was evil afoot.
Right.
I was not willing to address it before, or even contemplate that it existed prior to that time. But after watching what they were doing to my daughter, I could not avoid addressing the reality.
It's really different to believe in good and evil and tell that to everybody compared to running into it yourself.
Yeah, and I think at some level I was in denial that evil existed. I thought it was all, nonsense at the time. I can remember having an experience one time where I I dared evil to come in because I didn't even believe it existed.
Yeah.
I dared for it to come into my experience, and what a mistake, I did not realize how spiritual this reality really is.
So the evil was willing to accommodate your request then?
Yes, indeed. It was willing to take my dare, and I had to confront it. And of course, we're really all confronting it now.
Right.
There's no question, I'm sure, in most people's minds, unless their minds are still completely under hypnosis, that there is evil afoot. And it has gotten, I would say it's close to getting the upper hand here. If we don't get control of the situation, it's very serious. Let me put it that way. And what I'm going to say tonight is also, I think it can really shock a lot of people. And I want to apologize ahead of time if anything I say instigates a sense of trauma in people. That's never my intention.
Yeah, that's a risk when you talk about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the only, you either have to take the risk or just be unconscious, and that's not a good option.
Yeah, and it can be painful. I mean, you may, as you're listening to me, experience your body speeding up and getting very, very uncomfortable, even in your own body, because this is part of what happens as the mind control begins to break down. And that's part of what I'm doing in what I'm sharing, the information I'm about to share, breaking through the mind control so people can really see what is being done to our children as we are trying to give birth to them, also as we are gestating them.
So if you want to know, then you can keep listening, basically.
Yeah, and please accept my apology if I trigger any negative feelings.
Right.
My intention is always to liberate people and our earth and to help protect the children. So that's really where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I agree.
So with that experience, I began to look into trauma-based mind control.
This is like decades ago that you're talking, right?
I started looking, I think it was about 2008.
Okay.
Into the topic of trauma-based mind control, which took me into the topic of Satanism and Luciferianism. This was like a path. You learn about trauma-based mind control, and then the Illuminati, and then Satanism and Luciferianism, and what are these people doing? You know, like, what in the world is going on? Mm-hmm. And then tying all these pieces together in the writing of my book, Birth Trauma and the Dark Side of Modern Medicine, which I published in 2014. And what I came to realize is that the medical establishment is controlled by Luciferians. 100% controlled by Luciferians. That is not to say that everybody working within the medical establishment is a Luciferian. I think a lot of people enter the medical world with an intention to want to help, but even going through the process of medical school is a process of indoctrination through trauma-based mind control. So medical students are sleep deprived, sunlight deprived, nutrition deprived. They are forced to participate in some of the most atrocious and heinous abuse of innocent beings in their training in order to desensitize them, and so that they will become functioning members of the cult. This is a medical cult that is based in Luciferianism. And just to give a brief understanding of Luciferianism, for those who may not know what that is, Lucifer is understood to be God's adversary. Okay, so as the story goes, Lucifer was a very high up angel that rebelled against God and decided he didn't want to be an underling anymore, that he was as powerful as God, and he wanted to get people to worship him as if he were God. And in fact, he has done that very successfully. So there are many beings that followed Lucifer on that path of rebelling against God. And these beings worship Lucifer as if he were God. It is a religion.
Yeah, I agree. I also want to make one observation on what you just said. There are parallel cults going on like the one you're describing in different industries, corporations, professions. And an obvious example is in the higher level of banking. It's the same kind of indoctrination. And at the very top, it's satanic, just like what you're talking about.
100%. It's the same Luciferian cult that controls the banking industry, the media, the school system at this point,
entertainment.
Our entire government, almost our entire government is filled with people who have been indoctrinated into these Luciferian cults. And if they haven't been willing to cooperate, very often they're lured in by invitations to have sex with children, which are filmed, and then they're blackmailed. You know, they'll be exposed for having had sex with children if they don't cooperate with the cult. So this is what's going on in our government, and the medical establishment is absolutely controlled by these, I'm going to call them creatures. Because I don't believe when you have that much demonic influence running your life and your thinking and your behavior, I don't believe that you're human anymore. I think that you're something else. So I will call them creatures because they're not. They've lost the capacity to love and to have empathy. And they're able to engage in some of the most atrociously evil activities that the human mind would not necessarily be able to conceive of.
Yeah, I agree.
That's why we have such a hard time believing that this even exists.
Yeah, why would anybody want to be bad on purpose, right?
And I think most people don't want to be bad on purpose, but there is a rebellion going on. I see it in my own family, these aspects of rebellion. For example, it's very, very subtle, but people using pesticides, on their lawn is a form of Luciferian rebellion because you're engaged in killing insects, and you're engaged in killing food that's on the lawn that would feed the bees and the butterflies, and you're engaged in killing the Creator's creation. And whenever you do something like that, you are participating in the dark side. It's a form of rebellion that most people aren't aware of, yet millions are doing this because we've become so accustomed to the Luciferian reality.
So there's another industry, chemical agriculture, in which the same deadening of consciousness and conscience is required to advance to the higher positions. And
certainly the wireless industry is a fundamental component of Luciferianism. These frequencies are designed to interfere with our connection with Source, with our Creator, and with creation, and bring us more into the Luciferian realm. And we are opening the gates every time we use a wireless device to the energies coming into our life.
That's true. And we've had experts on the show that have reported in their experience prior to World War II. These were perfected to the point where they could control individuals on the other side. And the only thing that they were unhappy about is that they needed them to control millions of people at once, which is now successfully happening.
They have it. They have it right now. Yeah. We're in the end game right now, meaning if humanity does not wake up now, which I'm sure they're going to, but if they didn't, the wireless frequencies themselves are going to kill. They're already killing multiple life forms, including humans.
Yeah, even trees, things like that.
Trees, insects, birds have dropped dead. I mean, hundreds of thousands of birds dropped dead in the southwestern United States over the last few months, especially in areas where they've turned on 5G. So we have a very serious situation right now.
So this is kind of giving a picture of the context of what the medical industry is in the middle of, right? Or an example of.
Part of this, because they have been exposing us to radiation. Wireless frequencies are emitting radiation, what's called non-ionizing radiation. The medical industry has also been exposing us repeatedly to both ionizing and non-ionizing radiation. For example, ultrasound is non-ionizing radiation, and they are exposing developing babies to these frequencies for the express purpose of disrupting their genetics, their fertility, their brains. This is absolutely the underlying reason for autism, ADHD, multiple illnesses that we are seeing just overriding the health of our children, with vaccines coming in to further compound the destruction of the integrity of our children, both genetic and the brain, our nervous system.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure you gave due credit to the vaccines, because even before the widespread wireless, where there were no vaccines, there was no autism. Well, it was that striking.
In the 70s, when they began using ultrasound.
Okay, that too.
Book on ultrasound. It's called The Dark Side of Prenatal Ultrasound.
That's your second book, right?
My second book. It contains 1,600 citations, and it's very clear where this started. Vaccines are definitely throwing children over the edge. I'm not going to undermine the fact that vaccines are a massive problem. But autism started with the exposure to ultrasound. And now they're coming in with the wireless frequencies, the vaccines. Everything's been amped up since the 1980s. Ultrasound started in the 70s. In the late 80s, in comes this vaccine schedule to totally throw the kids over the edge. And then they upped the ultrasonic frequencies like eightfold in 1991. Everything is very methodically done to destroy the children.
I never really focused on the increasing intensity of ultrasound, but I did hear about there was a big advance to what they called 4G ultrasound that gave such a clear picture of the baby that they were saying, this is fantastically great, and this was actually one of the reasons. I mean, we've got months of stuff to talk about here, but I'm trying to not take too much time. But the reason that a lot of abortion workers quit, or at least some of them, is the advent of 4G ultrasound. And they were actually watching the baby try to fight off the weapon that was coming after it.
They call it 4D ultrasound. And
4D, sorry. Okay.
Usually ultrasound is not using as high frequencies as our cell phones would be using, for example. Ultrasound is usually in the megahertz range, that's millions of hertz, whereas our cell phones are in the billions of hertz. Okay, but ultrasound is a combination of acoustic radiation and electromagnetic radiation. So it is very aggressive and extremely destructive. But the insidiousness of it is that you cannot see the damage on the skin. You see, the damage is happening internally. And so, as with any form of radiation damage, we may not see it for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. All right, we're not going to see when a baby is born that that baby is infertile. Ultrasound literally stops sperm production. They're using it as a form of male contraception, and they can, create male vasectomy with ultrasound.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So that no sperm will ever get to the penis again. Okay? So it's a weapon. It's a very powerful.
And it's been sold with convenience, like, don't you want to know what gender your baby is, right? Or that it's healthy.
Sold. Everything is sold that way.
Yeah.
But it's going to benefit us. Look at all the benefits we've had from wireless technologies.
I know, it's incredible. I remember in the old days, that nobody knew if you were going to have a boy or a girl. It was a mystery until the birth.
Unless you're conscious, unless you conceive consciously, you wouldn't know because you're doing everything, haphazardly. That's a whole, going into how we're creating children, that's also been controlled. They're controlling how we have sex, how we think about sex, how we conceive our children, how we gestate our children, how we birth our children, the whole 9 yards. Okay, they've got it. I have a DVD series on pornography and the manipulation of human sexuality that outlines the path that they took to control us around how we create life. Right. So these people are diabolically intelligent. It's a diabolical intelligence that is for the express purpose of destroying us. It's always directed toward the destruction.
But isn't it interesting that it's not overnight destruction, because they have the technology to do that? This is a ceremonial step-by-step destruction.
Yeah. To bring everybody into alignment with it. You see, they want to take as many souls with them as they can. Here we are at the crossroads. Are we going to stay on the Luciferian path, or are we going to get back on the path of the Creator's good?
So it's a consciousness test that's happening right now, right?
Big time. And if people go willingly, they've got them, you see? Even if it's through tacit or implied consent. For example, there was a guy walking around my neighborhood the other day installing smart meters.
Okay.
And he knocked on people's doors to ask, do I have your consent?
Well, that's interesting.
Okay. So people could have said, no, you do not have my consent to irradiate me and my family or this neighborhood. Take a hike.
If they knew.
No, if they knew, right, they could have said no. But I knocked on my neighbor's door, my next door neighbor. And I said, you should tell him no. You can end up dead with that meter on your house. I tried to explain to her very quickly, but he did it in like 2 minutes, and she didn't even have time to think about it to say no.
Well, plus it's called smart. It must be great, right?
I mean, this is the thing. I gave my other next door neighbor, a copy of my ultrasound book, and she said to me, it's too scary for me to read. I started reading it, and it's terrifying to me.
She's being honest, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. But so they have our consent. You see, they have our consent. We have signed up for the cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
We have signed up for them for prenatal care, right? We have signed up to birth through their OBs in their hospitals.
The sign up is just the end product of a long education.
It's an indoctrination. It's actually, we are initiated into their cult through the birth process, through the pregnancy process and the birth process. As babies, we are initiated into the cult through the protocols that we have had to endure. Even when I was born in 1958, what I had to endure, my mother was given a cocktail called Twilight Sleep, made up of Demerol and scopolamine. All right, Demerol is an opiate. And when you're born on opiate drugs, you're born with what's called a state of euphoria, a drug-induced artificial state of well-being called euphoria.
Right.
What you don't experience is love. What you don't experience is human love, because your mother's drugged, you're drugged.
Yeah.
Okay, so human love is not happening. They have usurped the production of oxytocin by introducing Pitocin, Demerol, all kinds of synthetic.
Why don't you tell people that don't know what oxytocin is?
Oxytocin is the hormone, the natural hormone of love and bonding. It's the hormone that allows us to experience love at birth and throughout life. Yeah, it's the hormone that allows for the letdown of breast milk. It's the hormone that really can bond a family. It should be flooding the mother and the father and the baby as the baby is being born.
So hormones are not just physical chemicals that are just floating around on the physical level. They have other...
Well, they are, but they have a purpose. You see, and the purpose of this particular hormone is to induce love. And love is a gateway, you see, toward a connection with the divine,
right,
and with the divine mind. And when they interfere with love, which they're doing 100% through their drugs and their abuse of mothers and babies and fathers during the birth process, then they've interfered with our birthright to have a connection to the divine mind,
right,
and to a divine experience of life. And they start that in the womb. You see, they start that with ultrasound and all the abusive things that they do, even during pregnancy, to terrify mothers and fathers, to steal, repeatedly steal blood that's precious to the baby's oxygen supply. They're constantly taking blood. They're constantly doing invasive things like amniocentesis and chorionic, villi sampling, all these genetic tests that are very, very invasive and harmful to the baby. And, God forbid you have to have ROGAM because you're, positive, you have a negative blood, AB negative or B negative or A negative, right? Then you have to have ROGAM. All of these things have such detrimental impacts on the children and the parents and on our ability to have healthy pregnancies and birth. And we haven't even gotten to the birth yet.
Right, exactly. And it's a fairly new thing to give vaccines to pregnant women too.
Vaccines, and ROGAM being one of them. ROGAM is what you get if you're Rh negative.
How do you spell that?
RHOGAM.
Rogan. Okay.
They give these women Rogan shots. So I don't want to go too deep into this, but to say I have a lot of work out there already about these topics of what's going on during prenatal life and what they're doing to mothers and babies.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about the birth process because I think a lot of people will resonate with what's happened to them.
And I want to just point out, too, for the people that are feeling too afraid or depressed by hearing about this, we're going to end up at the end with the response and what you can do. Because in my mind, the only reason to hear about any of this negative stuff is so that you can come up with the best response and do it different, right?
Right.
Otherwise, it doesn't go anywhere. So it's important to do this first step.
Yeah. So if I just go through the birth process to help people get grounded in the satanic piece of this. If we look at, is that okay with you, Richard? If I just...
Yeah, that's why you're here.
Jump right into it. So if we look at what's happening to 1 out of 3 babies right now, is that the mother is being pushed to acquiesce to an induction.
Right.
An induction of labor is basically a medically induced premature birth. That's exactly what it is, because the baby's not ready to be born, or labor would have happened naturally.
Right.
In a normal situation, the baby will signal the mother's body that it's ready to be born, and the mother will begin producing the neurochemicals of birth, and the birth process will ensue. So the baby's in charge in a normal birth process of when it's going to be born. But induction really hijacks the baby's destiny and the baby's dominion over its own birth and its own birthday.
Yeah.
Okay. And of course, they chose the word induction for a reason. Induction has very specific meaning. You can look this up.
Well, the first thing I think of is in being induced into a group of some kind, right?
Right.
Yeah,
so military personnel are inducted into the military, and police are inducted into the police academy. I call these cults because these good-intentioned people are actually serving what most of us will call the elite, who are really the dark side.
Right.
Okay, they're there. You can see what's happening with the police right now, especially in countries like Australia. So it's not to say that all police are bad, but it is to say that their true function has been hidden even from most of them.
Well, and this stage is getting rid of the good ones pretty fast, too.
Yeah. So induction is a word that's chosen very carefully because the baby and the mother and the father also, because he's part of this, are being inducted into the Luciferian order through the birth process. And it starts with the induction of labor. Now, the induction of labor involves the use of very dangerous drugs. Drugs that can actually cause uterine hyperstimulation and even uterine rupture. Now if we talk about Cytotec, for example, that's one of the drugs that they use. It's being used against label, which specifically says you should not use this drug on a pregnant woman because it induces a miscarriage state. Okay.
How do you spell that drug again? CYTO something.
CYTOTEC.
Got it.
Cytotec. And you can look up Cytotec deaths. Women are dying, babies are dying from this drug because it not only induces, it makes the uterus it makes the cervix just open up, okay? But it also causes very intense contractions that can crush the baby. Okay, and if there is a uterine rupture because of these intense contractions, obviously we have a massively dangerous, life-threatening situation, which Cytotec is known to do, to cause uterine rupture. So that's one drug. Another drug is called Pitocin. Pitocin, or in the UK, and I think in Australia, it's called syntocinon or something like this. What it is synthetic oxytocin. It is a chemical mimicry of oxytocin. So it's got just a few little tweaks in the chemical composition to make it kind of similar to oxytocin, but nothing like natural oxytocin.
Okay.
It's enough to induce labor, meaning to create contractions, artificially induced contractions that are over the top intense. Okay, well, your uterus is turned into a trash compactor, basically, instead of a birth portal.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to smash the baby. And it's going to, of course, cause horrific pain to the mother as well. You know, in a natural birth, you know, a contraction, which is really an expansion because your body is trying to expand to let the baby out.
Right.
But a contraction will build, and then it'll peak, and then it'll ease off, and the body will rest. Okay, and then it'll start to rise again, it'll build, peak, ease off, rest. It's always a resting period in between. But with Pitocin, there is no rest. It's like bam, 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 bam. Okay, so we have a very serious situation. This drug is known to cause fetal distress, obviously, because you're crushing the baby.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no opportunity for the baby to recover from the intensity of such contractions that are unrelenting. And we actually have doctors, psychopathic doctors, writing orders to nurses, something called pit to distress, meaning pump up that Pitocin to the highest level to purposefully put the baby in distress so that we can move more quickly to a C-section and get to our golf outing or whatever it is we need to do. So nurses have blogged about this, that they're being ordered to deliberately put the baby in distress through this drug. Okay?
Right.
And the other really big deal about this drug is that when you introduce this drug into a laboring mother's body, it will undermine her ability to produce natural oxytocin. Okay, when you introduce synthetic oxytocin into the bloodstream of a laboring mother, it sort of tricks the body.
That's true of artificial hormones of all kinds, isn't it? Because almost anything, there's a huge spectrum of hormones, and they have something called hormone replacement therapy, and it's now expanded into almost every kind of hormone. And one common theme is that when you give it beyond a certain point, or maybe starting right away, the body says in the feedback mechanisms, not needed, and it shuts off natural production.
Exactly. You said it exactly. This is exactly what's happening. So if the mother is not producing natural oxytocin, obviously the bonding between mother and baby is going to be disrupted.
Right.
Okay. The whole energy of the birthing field is going to be disrupted. The father will not be able to feel oxytocin either. And that baby's oxytocin receptor sites will be damaged for life because of the introduction of this drug, meaning that that child will have a very difficult time experiencing human love and bonding in the way that the Creator designed that child to experience human love and bonding.
So why do they only do it to a third of the kids if it's so much right up their alley?
Well, I don't know why only 1 out of 3 are being induced in the United States. It may be because there's a large number of people refusing it. It may be because they can't make up enough stories about...
It might make it too obvious, yeah.
What, I don't know. That's to say 1 in 3 are being induced, but over 80% are getting Pitocin.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So check that.
Okay.
Check that. 83%, according to one survey, were receiving Pitocin during labor, and if they can't get it into you during labor, they're going to try to get it into you immediately after to prevent bonding, and they're going to tell you, we need to put this drug in you so that you can give birth to the placenta.
Exactly.
They're going to try to get it into you.
Now, there are two drugs that you mentioned, right? That and Cytotec. So are they the same, or if they're not the same, how do they choose?
No, usually they're not the same drug. And they're often used in combination if there's an induction. But Cytotec's usually not used if there's not an induction. To my knowledge, I don't know when else it might be used during labor. Okay. But it is used to induce labor. Okay. The other thing that they do to induce labor very often is what's called the breaking of the waters, or an amniotomy. So the baby is actually in an amniotic sac, which is a watery sac that is very protective of the baby, and it will help pad the baby from the
great shock absorber, right?
But you see, it won't be available. That padding is not available if they break the water.
Yeah.
Or they do an amniotomy. So that's going to make more pain for the baby.
And more urgency to get the birth over with, right?
Right. And in some cases, they're going to be using what's called an internal fetal heart monitor. These fetal heart monitors literally are screwed into the baby's head.
I didn't know that.
They have a screw on the end of it. They stick their hands up into the vagina of a laboring mother, in through her cervix, to screw this thing into the baby's head. So that now every time there's a contraction, we're going to pull and tug and cause immense pain in the very spot. They call it the soft spot.
Right.
Where, from a spiritual perspective, this is where a download of spiritual information would be occurring during the transition.
Yeah.
From one realm, the watery realm of the mother's body,
right,
into the physical realm.
I know about it. There's a current that comes in right there.
Right. Okay. So you see, what type of mind would think to listen to the baby's heart rate by screwing something into the baby's head? Okay. Only the mind of a sadistic psychopath who was seeking to disrupt that child's well-being.
And the doctors are trained to not be able to perceive if something's out of line like that.
The other option, of course, with the fetal heart monitors is that you be exposed to ultrasound the entire time that you're in labor. Fetal heart monitors are ultrasonic. This is radiation. All right, that babies are being exposed to sometimes for hours or even days if you're being induced and the baby's not willing to cooperate and come out right away. Mm-hmm. Okay? So this radiation, of course, is going to really affect the mother's eggs and the baby's eggs. And if it's a boy, the baby's sperm.
Right.
And of course, the frequencies from ultrasound are going to disrupt the baby's ability to connect with the Creator. And they are also a doorway for the influx of Luciferian forces. That's what these frequencies are.
It's kind of like one of the baby's first drugs.
It's a way to actually make these babies more open to Luciferian influence.
Right.
That's the purpose of all of this.
Yeah, it's probably not how they explain it in medical school.
Probably not. I don't know anybody else that's ever said this, what I'm saying to you right now.
I haven't heard it
so vividly
presented like that.
The reasons for all of it and what they're really doing. Okay, so now we've got the induction part pretty much covered. Okay, I spoke about Pitocin. The next piece is going to be epidural. Okay, epidural is a form of anesthetic that they inject around the spine. And they do this in order to make the mother's body numb from the waist down.
Out of fear of pain, they say this is going to make you feel a lot better, right?
In many cases, it's not a fear of pain. It's actually the mother's in immense pain because of the Pitocin.
Okay.
And is begging.
So this is going to fix the problem we just caused. It's the selling point for it.
Right. So let me say that where they're introducing this anesthesia is right by the cerebral spinal fluid. Now, the cerebral spinal fluid is thought to be the seat of the soul. Okay, it is the liquid, this crystalline liquid, that is thought to be a means through which the transmissions from source are coming. The cerebral spinal fluid totally surrounds every aspect of our nervous system and our brain. Mm-hmm. It goes all the way down the spine, all the way through every crevice in the brain. And it, because of its crystalline nature, has immense electrical capacity.
So in a way, it does for the central nervous system what the amniotic fluid does for the baby.
I guess it's similar.
In a way. I'm not saying completely, but, you know.
Yeah. So let's just say that the epidural is going to numb that spiritual potential.
Okay.
The spiritual potential of the soul. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to definitely numb the mother's ability to experience the birth in a soulful way, in a spiritual way. Birth is an immense gateway. It is a gateway. It is a shamanic opening that's occurring. That the mother, it's like a transcendent possibility for the mother to be in two realms at once, you know, in the realm of the creator and creation, and in the realm of the physical, as she's bringing this being into this realm. It's a huge thing that's really supposed to be happening, that they have totally negated any possibility of happening.
So when you get the epidural, what part of your body goes numb?
Ideally, the bottom part of your body goes numb.
Like from your waist down?
Yeah, ideally.
Okay.
It doesn't always work. In cases where it does work, this means that the mother can no longer feel the birth process. She can't feel her baby. And she can't help her baby get born.
Right.
Because this mother can no longer even roll over on her own. Okay, so she certainly can't walk around or squat or get on all fours or do anything to help her baby get born. She can't even feel her body or her baby. So her baby is basically on its own.
It's like being paralyzed from the waist down.
Yes. If it works properly, she's completely paralyzed from the waist down, which is a mind-altering experience in itself.
Yeah, right.
Okay, this is totally mind control. So now the baby's going to have an abandonment issue because it can't connect with its mother anymore for the most part, and it's not getting any help. I mean, unless the mother is immensely conscious and trying to connect with the baby on a spiritual level or on a telepathic level, this baby's on its own. to get
Right.
born.
And the baby is totally tuned into the kind of feeling that grown-ups struggle to get.
And the mother's not going to help.
Right.
Right. The mother is concerned about what's happening for her, and not very concerned about what's happening for the baby at this point.
Yeah.
And maybe, I'm sad to say this, but this has to be spoken. In many cases, the mother's not concerned about what's happening for the baby for a large part of the pregnancy either. She's just consumed with her own experience.
Well, she's being taught that it's not a baby anyway.
Right.
So there's nothing to be concerned for.
I mean, this is certainly the case in many, many pregnancies, that the mother is overwhelmed with her own experience and not very aware that the baby is, let me just give you a brief thing, okay, on this. Most babies are conceived unconsciously, which means the mother doesn't discover they're there until 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
That means the baby is alone for 6 to 8 weeks. Nobody even knows it's there.
Right.
That's a wounding in itself. Then the mother discovers its presence at 6 to 8 weeks. In many cases, she's going to say shit.
Yeah.
Okay, because she just was having sex to get off, and now in comes this baby that she doesn't really want.
Right.
All right? So after the baby is completely ignored for the first 6 to 8 weeks, it's finally seen. And the imprint that goes in when it's seen is, my mother doesn't want me.
Yeah, you're trespassing.
My mother doesn't want me. I'm not lovable. I'm not loved. Okay? And this is an imprint that can stay with that child throughout its life and can influence that child's ability to have healthy relationships throughout its life. Okay? So yes, we have been conditioned to think that orgasm is what we should be going for.
Right, the priority.
Okay, instead of understanding that this is a life-creating energy and that we had better wise up and start directing it in that way, because we are hurting our children immensely and causing so much suffering to them and to ourselves as parents who don't want them. Okay, if I could run down the list of things that the social issues that have occurred since we've been conditioned to have sex without being interested in creating life. All right, we have sexually transmitted diseases, teenage pregnancies, fatherless children, unwanted children, children being murdered in the womb. We have adultery, divorce, homosexuality, pedophilia.
Some states are making it legal to kill the baby after it's born now, too,
Right.
as a post-birth abortion.
See, every one of the things I just mentioned is a social issue that is 100% the result of us being conditioned to think it is okay to have sex without wanting to create life. And I'm here to tell you, it's not okay. Because there's massive Luciferian and satanic stuff that is occurring right now as a result of that. And we have to see this. As painful as it is, people are killing their children so that they can continue having physical pleasure.
Right. Now this, I imagine, doesn't apply the same way to all the people involved in sex after their procreating, potential is gone, when they're older, in other words. That wouldn't be...
I don't really know what to say about that.
It's an interesting other question that just comes up.
All I can say is that my understanding is that something happens when two people bring their bodies together for the express purpose of creating life. Two people that really love each other and want to take their love into eternity through the creation of life. Okay? When you bring your bodies together for that reason, and you call in God, okay, and you say, we love each other so much, and we love you too, God, and we want to bring a being here who will contribute to the fulfillment of love on this earth and to the fulfillment of the divine plan. Okay, please bring us a child. Then you bring your bodies together, then it's you, your beloved, and God merging into the creation of this life. Okay, something so magnificent is designed to occur when you do things at this level, that we would be looking at orgasm, and especially old people, but just looking at orgasm, as people engaging in lovemaking, what we call lovemaking, we would see that it is repulsive. It is revolting what we're doing. We are so sloppy and disgusting with this, what should be the most amazing, amazing God energy. And I don't know if I can convey this properly. I mean, I hope you can feel me, because I really get it. I really see it, and I really feel it.
Yeah, no, I'm picking up everything you're saying.
I'm not saying this from a holier-than-thou place, because I have a very sordid background myself, sexually. You know, I was a sexual priestess at one time doing erotic body work and really, really believing I was doing sexual healing work when I was so deep into the dark side that I couldn't see. I couldn't see that I was breaking up marriages and engaged in the work of the dark side. I see it now. I see it. I regret it. I wish that I could, you know, I won't say I'll take it back, because I couldn't be speaking to you the way I'm speaking to you now if I hadn't walked the path of the dark side.
You know, that happens with humans a lot, that really bad experiences of unconsciousness lead to wisdom later.
So what I want to just stress is that the potential that we have to experience something so magnificent that we would only need to do it once, twice, 3 times in a life for our entire life to be happy, and for us to be living in a family in which love can be preserved, in which we experience enduring human love, which is what we're all really wanting. Okay, the potential is there. If we can shake off what the dark side has conditioned us to believe, okay, and what the dark side has conditioned us to participate in. So I got onto this somehow through epidural.
Yeah, you weren't finished with the sequence.
I wasn't at all.
That's not the end point.
No. But the beginning point is how we're being conditioned sexually. So that could be a show in itself, Richard. But let's go back to the birth process. And please forgive me. I'm never here to judge people or make you wrong for what you're doing, but just in the hopes of helping you aspire to something that is so much more filled with love and has so much more the potential to bring happiness to your life and to the well-being of our earth and our children. So looking again at the birth process, from the epidural, we know that women, for example, who are induced have a much increased chance of having a C-section. In fact, I think it's something like a 60% increased chance of being cut open.
Right.
For your baby to be born. Now, C-section is, again, a satanic ritual because we have women literally being strapped to an altar. I'll call it a satanic altar, where they can't move. In many cases, they're drugged so they can't scream. I've read story after story of women being cut into without any anesthesia taking effect. So they're feeling every cut that is happening to them. And of course, the baby is being torn out of the womb.
Right.
Instead of, the birth process itself involves the baby learning how to navigate the birth portal. So it's going to be twisting and turning and maneuvering its body. And when it makes its way through, there's a massive victory that gets imprinted into that child's physiology that says, I can do this. Okay, I got this. I got this life. I can manage things. I'm okay. Okay, when that victory is stolen, all right, C-section babies, they can have a feeling that they just can't do it. Like they try and they try and they try, but then they need some kind of outside force to come in to actually finish the process or get the job done. There was an interference in the victory. Okay, not to mention that when the mother is drugged, the baby is drugged.
Yeah.
And bonding is interfered with severely. Like some of these mothers are given drugs where they won't remember. They can feel everything, but they have amnesia about what happened. This is my mother. She was given scopolamine in the twilight sleep. It was part of the twilight sleep cocktail. And this drug, you can feel what's happening, but you don't remember a thing.
So it becomes buried trauma, basically.
Yeah, but the baby remembers, right? The baby knows, and the mother's like, I don't know, I don't remember anything bad happening.
Right.
So now this is a big problem because the baby doesn't have anyone that can affirm that it's been through massive trauma. And this is a normal thing in our society, that the babies are not having an adult in their life that will mirror a knowing of what that baby's been through. They're all in denial about it, which is going to compound the trauma for that child. And this runs very deep. We're going to talk about circumcision, but imagine being strapped to a board as a newborn infant with your little legs strapped in and your arms strapped in, and the only thing you can move is your head while somebody's cutting into your penis with no anesthetic whatsoever and cutting off the most sensitive part of your penis for no medical reason whatsoever. And then to have nobody in the adult world acknowledge that you have just been sexually tortured and genitally altered for life.
Right.
It's the most outrageous abuse.
It's become almost universal in a lot of countries now.
No, it's not universal. 80% of the world's men are intact, meaning not.
I didn't know it was that high.
Okay, in the United States and Israel, where the Jews have control of the medical system, that's where it's been mainstreamed.
Certainly in the U.S., it's the most common, right?
In Israel, it's the most common. In the U.S., it's becoming much less common.
Okay, that's interesting.
When I was born, I think it was some 80-something% of the boys were circumcised. So now parents are beginning to get hip. So now it's dropping. Now, the last time I looked, it was about 58% and dropping.
Interesting. Okay.
So parents are saying, no, thanks. You can leave my baby's penis alone. I think God put that foreskin there for a reason. And let me say this, okay? Because I jumped ahead to the circumcision.
Yeah.
But the foreskin, which is adhered to the glands of the penis when the baby is born.
Right.
This foreskin is designed so that when it meets with the vaginal wall, it will trigger the male brain to produce neurochemicals of love and bonding. And they are cutting it off for no medical reason. There is no medical benefit, and I have dozens of studies, military studies, all kinds of studies that confirm that this, they lie. They say it stops HIV,
right.
A virus that doesn't exist, by the way, or that it stops, sexually transmitted diseases. Just the opposite is true. When you take off the foreskin, which is the protective skin around the glands, it protects the very vulnerable glands. When you cut it off, the glands can very easily get cut, and then all kinds of bacteria can get in. Okay, so circumcised men have more sexually transmitted diseases than intact men. Circumcised men have more sexual problems than intact men, of course, because you have cut off the most sensitive part of their penis. Not only that, but when the glands of the penis is exposed 24/7, it becomes calloused. It has to, in order to try to protect itself. You can look at images. I could show you one, but I'm not sure if that's okay. I could actually share my screen and show you what happens to the glands of a circumcised penis over 2 decades or 3 decades, is it becomes completely calloused, which means the sensitivity is reduced majorly, forcing a circumcised man to have to thrust repeatedly in order to gain enough sensation to reach orgasm. Whereas the intact penis, do you want to see this image? Because I could show this if you're...
You can do that. It's okay.
If you're willing to look. Give me a minute. Sure. And I'm not going to say this is easy to look at, people. Let me just go ahead and share my screen with you. This is a very important image. Can you see that?
Yeah, it's super clear.
Okay. So you see the intact penis on the right, and you see the exquisite moisture and sensitivity. This is the foreskin that is rolled back. Okay. And you can see what happens to the circumcised penis, the glands. You see how calloused it's become.
Right. Yeah, completely different.
And also, I want you to notice the rim of the circumcised penis. Now, when the circumcised man enters into a vagina, each time he pulls out, the fluids that are in the vagina get trapped under the rim. They get pulled out of the vagina, causing an unnatural drying of the vagina that requires the use of toxic lubricants and stuff for people to have intercourse. This is not normal. When an intact penis pulls out, see, this glands completely covers. This foreskin rolls back over the glands,
right,
and protects all those natural fluids. And then as it enters again, the foreskin pulls back. again. Okay, so what they've done is very, very detrimental to sexual union.
Right, and they don't usually ask the baby what it wants.
No, I don't think the baby wants to be strapped to a board and sexually tortured. In some cases, they'll actually shove something into the baby's mouth, a pacifier or something to shut the baby up. Because in most cases, the baby will be screaming sounds, the likes of which you will never hear anywhere else, because the baby is being tortured. And then in some cases, the baby will stop screaming. And the eyes will glaze over and the heart rate will slow down. This means the baby has gone into shock, into parasympathetic shock, otherwise called dissociation.
Yeah.
And dissociation is what the people engaged in trauma-based mind control are looking for, because when babies dissociate, you can call in alter personalities to enter into the body, who will be in service to the dark side.
Yeah, pretty.
So circumcision is trauma-based mind control. There's no question. This whole birth process that I'm describing to you is trauma-based mind control.
And before this happens, there are other, I mean, you've described quite a few of them actually, but there's another big one that I think you skipped ahead of.
Yeah, there's several. Let me say that when the baby comes out, are you talking about the umbilical cord and the cord blood? Is that okay? Yeah, let's talk about that. When the baby is born, the baby has an umbilical cord attached to it. Okay, that's still attached to the placenta that's inside the mother's body. That's attached to the mother's body.
Yeah.
Okay?
Just for men that don't understand what the placenta is, why don't you bring them up to speed too, okay? Because I think this
is an organ.
Really important.
That is developed during pregnancy. Okay, one half is on the side of the mother's body. The other half is on the side of the baby's body. And the umbilicus, the umbilical cord, is attached to the placenta. And it is the means by which the baby is receiving blood and oxygen and nutrients from the mother as it's developing.
Right, and it's tied in through blood vessels to the mother also, right? So it's sharing the circulation system.
The placenta has an enormous number of blood vessels. Yes. All that blood is designed to support the baby.
So why doesn't the blood go directly into the baby from the mother? Why is the placenta needed as a middle step to the whole thing?
Well, in some cases, you know, for example, if the mother is Rh negative and the baby is Rh positive, if you mix the blood, the baby will die.
Right.
Okay? Literally.
Yeah.
So nature, God, has designed a protective mechanism by which to separate the baby's blood supply from the mother's blood supply. I mean, they're obviously interconnected, but they're not fully connected. There's an
intermediary, kind of like a transducer filter or something like that.
And the other thing is, it is a filter too, because the placenta will try to siphon off toxins coming from the mother. And there's an enormous amount right now.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
That will hinder the baby's development. So the placenta, in indigenous cultures, they view the placenta as a spiritual guardian, a guardian angel, a spiritual twin. They have many different names for this. So there's so much I could say about the placenta that if you do something called a lotus birth, where you leave the baby attached to its umbilical cord and its placenta, when the baby nurses, the umbilical cord will start pulsing, because it's still responding to the fact that the baby is getting its needs met as it's nursing. So the placenta is alive. It's actually a living entity, or organ that is there to protect the baby. And it will actually break down its own body if the baby is malnourished. It will begin to break down its body in order to nourish the developing child.
Right.
So in indigenous cultures also, fathers have very strict protocols that they have to follow in order to protect the baby's umbilical cord and placenta, because they know if the wrong people get their hands on it, that baby can be negatively influenced throughout its life. So there's a very spiritual significance to the umbilical cord and the placenta. Let's start from there. All right? Now, when the baby comes out, it is attached to the umbilical cord and the placenta. And you will see that there is blood flowing through the umbilical cord to the baby.
And the placenta's connection to the mother on the inside, what happened to that?
It's still connected to the mother when the baby is born. It will release from the mother's body, usually within 20, 30 minutes, might take a little bit longer.
Okay.
It'll let go of the mother's body, and the mother will give birth to it. Okay, so in a natural birth, now you will have the baby and the umbilical cord and the placenta, they're one unit, and the mother as a separate unit.
Right.
Okay? But in a hospital birth, there is no such thing as a baby, umbilical cord, and placenta being together. That's never going to happen. Or if it ever happens, it's a miracle. Okay? Because they're going to cut that cord. They're going to cut the cord sometimes before the baby's even fully out of the womb.
They clamp it first, right?
They're going to clamp it. They're going to cut off the blood that's supposed to go to the baby.
Mm-hmm.
This blood is filled with oxygen and vital nutrients that are necessary for the proper brain development, proper neurological development, proper development of the baby's lungs, because it contains oxygen. And
Right.
They're going to clamp it. Do you know why? They're going to collect it. And they're going to sell it
Right.
to other members of the Luciferian cult who use it in order to stay youthful. All right, these people make no secret of the fact that they are having injections of young blood.
So you're saying this is one of their major sources where they get
Big time.
Okay.
Big time.
And it also affects the immune system of the baby if it's not cut off, right?
It's going to force the baby to gasp in desperation for its life, because you've just cut off its oxygen supply.
Well, right. If you don't do that, the baby just doesn't even have to breathe air for a while.
Right.
Right.
Same thing underwater. You could have a baby being born underwater, and you could leave that baby underwater for 5 minutes, and it doesn't need to breathe.
Right. Right.
Receiving all of its oxygen through the blood that's coming from the mother and the placenta, okay?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not suggesting that you do that, but you could. The baby should be able to make a gentle transition from receiving all of its oxygen through the blood and having to breathe air.
So, and the placenta has its own muscle contraction pulsing system, right? To continue to put the blood into the baby. And when it starts to run out of blood because it's disconnected from the mother,
Right.
then at that point, the baby realizes it has to start breathing in a different way.
Right. And the baby will.
Yeah.
The baby will.
But it doesn't have to be like strangled by cutting off the cord and then smashed on the back end so that it gasps for air and all that.
Completely. This is abuse. This is abuse. If you do this in a natural way, let me help people understand how it would look in a natural way. Okay? The blood will be pulsing, and you'll see the umbilical cord is beautiful. It's like a purple blue, and it'll be sort of twisted up with some knots in it. So as the blood flows, the knots will begin to unravel, the color will begin to change, and then you'll see eventually the cord will turn white, it will be flat. This means the baby has received all of the blood that it needs to have in order for proper development and for its health.
Right.
And for its spiritual health and psychological health as well. And that would be an okay time to cut the cord. Okay, any time before that is absolutely not okay, and it is abuse.
Right.
And it is an attack on the spiritual, psychological, and physical well-being of that child. And the spiritual attack is very big, because when you have Satanists that are consuming the blood and body parts of tortured children, and your children might be one of those whose body parts that they have consumed, okay, then your child has been cursed. And then it requires the parent becoming conscious of that fact and working from a spiritual and conscious place to heal their child and to undo what the dark forces have done. In other words, to cancel and neutralize the spells that have been cast against that child.
Right, they're not irrevocable, in other words.
Of course they're not irrevocable. They're 100% irrevocable.
They're 100% revocable, yeah.
I mean, they're 100% revocable. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Okay, there's nothing that's irrevocable that they do. We can neutralize and revoke it all. But we have to have the intention and the awareness and the consciousness to do this.
Right.
You know? And this is the same for any children we've aborted. These babies could be in the hell realms because of us, because of our stupidity, and because of our, our flippant attitude toward them.
Yeah.
We have to not only regret it, but seriously work toward revoking, canceling what the dark forces have done and trying to bring their souls back to God. We have to have enormous regret.
And then go beyond that and not just sit in the regret and say nothing is possible.
Right.
You actually have to do something.
Not regret, but do something to try to rectify what we've done spiritually.
Right.
It's a huge thing. Abortion is a huge issue.
So if you want to go into what you do besides just having regret for all of this stuff, what would you say? I mean, what are the things that are positive to do?
Number one for me was healing my birth trauma. Okay, so in the process of healing my birth trauma, I became conscious of what I'm saying to you tonight. And I became conscious of what happened to me. Okay, and I worked with a system called Jinshin Jitsu, which is based on self-care, daily self-care, which I still do every day, to help my nervous system release the trauma. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is priority number one. You've got to heal yourself if you want to help your children and your family.
Or anybody else.
Or anybody. You have to heal yourself. This is really, and this is part of what I do, is I bring this work to people to help them heal. I do private sessions through Skype and Zoom for birth trauma. Okay, so while you're doing that, you want to also do the spiritual work to connect with the Creator to help your children. Many children that may have been traumatized or that you may have aborted. Okay, you may want to do ceremonies. We could call them rituals, but ritual has a dark connotation.
People think of it only on the negative side, yeah.
Right. So I'll call them performing rites, R-I-T-E-S, to bring your children back to the safety of God's love. Right. And to the safety of God's protection. To bring yourself and your children out of the realm of the dark forces.
So you're saying that your clear intention to do that has a lot of power.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can do it in a number of ways. You can, for example, let me give you just one possibility, okay? If you have a baby you aborted, you could plant a tree somewhere meaningful to you, in a safe spot, to ask your baby to come back, or to have a safe space for that soul, to connect with that soul. Okay, if you want to, you could do the same thing if you want to have a baby. You know, you could create a beautiful space of love in which to conceive and gestate and birth that baby, and plant a tree, a family tree, under which you could conceive the baby and call the baby in. When the baby comes, you could sit under that tree to connect. Okay, so
there's two categories that are most obvious of positive things related to everything you said. One is what you're talking about now, to help heal mistakes, the results of mistakes. And the other one is prevention and doing it a different way to begin with.
Yeah. The first thing is absolutely, you've got to heal your trauma. And in the healing of the trauma, you become conscious, and which is what we're doing tonight.
Right.
There's two pieces to true healing. Okay, we've got to become conscious of the damage, what happened to us and our children. And we've got to find a holistic method by which we can heal it. We have to heal the nervous system. We've got to move the trauma out of the body. And we've got to seek holistic methods by which we can return ourselves to the path of God, to the path of love. Okay, because we have been consumed in the Luciferian realm without being aware of it.
Right.
We have been walking a Luciferian path. And there are many things. You know, I have a whole 20-week parenting program.
Why don't you tell people what happens in that and how they do it?
Well, in the parenting program, number one, we look at cultures around the world where, compared to us, they have been able to properly bond with their children, or where they might be giving birth in a much more gentle way. We look at the difference between home birth and hospital birth, okay, and what's happening there. I do teach everybody in the parenting program the system of Jin Shin Jitsu, so that we can begin healing the birth trauma. And we go into depth about conception trauma, prenatal trauma, and birth trauma. What might have happened to us, so that we can become conscious of it and heal it with the help of Jin Shin and whatever other modality we may be drawn to. We talk about preconception preparation. Okay, so what would we need to do prior to the conception of children in order to bring children in without any trauma and in alignment with the divine dream? Okay, so it's preconception preparation. It's an understanding of the need to not settle in terms of who we're partnering with. Right now, we're having multiple partners, sexual partners, and most relationships are what I would call false unions, because we have such low self-esteem, and very often we make children accidentally, and then we end up getting married to these people who are not the right people for us. So there's a process of rising to consciousness about healthy relationships, creating healthy unions, conscious conception in a space of love, gestation without trauma. What is required to actually do a home birth without it being traumatic? Because I tried a home birth, okay? I tried it, but I had so much birth trauma that I couldn't give birth gently. So again, it comes back to healing the birth trauma. We have to prepare for home birth. And then, understanding once we become parents, what is, all about breastfeeding, all about the dangers of vaccination, all about, of course, we have to keep wireless devices away from us when we are thinking of conceiving and gestating a child, we cannot be exposing them to these frequencies and staying as far away from the medical establishment as we possibly can.
All the scheduled doctor visits during the whole pregnancy.
No, I mean, we really don't want to do this. You see, we have to be willing to take responsibility for our process. It doesn't mean you can't have a midwife,
right?
Okay, who's trained to understand the beauty of the birth process. I'm not talking about a certified nurse midwife. There are certified professional midwives who are not medically oriented. And certainly the first time we give birth, we probably want that kind of a person.
Right. Well, a lot of people are worried about, well, if something just goes wrong, then obviously I have to go to a hospital and I have to be ready to do that.
And we do have to be ready to do that if something goes wrong. Okay, there's no question.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean we have to give the pregnancy process to them. Okay,
right.
We can find a certified professional midwife with hospital rights, okay, that if we are in need to go into their temples of the occult for any reason,
that midwife could kind of protect you while you're in there, right?
Yeah, and it's only if we really need to go, you see?
Right.
Okay, it's not going to be because we have somebody with us who's filled with fear and it's not happening on their clock and, you know.
Yeah.
But again, we really do need to prepare ourselves for the home birth. You know, we have to, it's not something that you should just do because women tend to give birth the way that we were born. And if we were born in trauma, we could recreate that trauma when we give birth to our children. So we do want to heal the trauma so that we can give birth to our children gently. This is something very few midwives talk about, but some of them do. And that's a good thing. If you can find a midwife that understands the importance of healing birth trauma before you give birth, ideally before you become pregnant. Because you don't want to be going through this when you're pregnant.
Right, and if you have a great midwife that you found before the beginning, then you could consult with them during the pregnancy too, right?
Absolutely.
Get a 100%. Lot of support, right?
Most people won't get a midwife until they're pregnant. See, most people will not do preconception preparation. I have a few people that have come to me preconception, very few. Yeah. And I got to give these young women credit because, and even a young man who's come through my parenting program, because he wants to prepare himself to be a father properly. But most people who come into my parenting program have already given birth or they're involved in the birth community somehow as midwives or as doulas and wanting to go deeper. I mean, I think people actually become midwives and doulas in some part because they are trying to heal their own trauma.
That makes sense. Not conscious of it. Which is probably a great way to heal it. Heal yourself and then help other people too.
Yeah. We could also end up re-traumatizing ourselves because hospitals can be so traumatizing. Right. Because I trained as a doula and then I said, forget it, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to, I can't stand by and support a mother that's choosing vaccination and circumcision. Yeah. I can't do it. I'm not going to do it.
Well, I think doulas and midwives that are in that initial process of deciding whether they can work with the mother, they have to talk about that stuff, right?
Most midwives won't bother. They'll just say, okay. Some midwives, some even famous midwives like Ina May Gaskin has circumcised babies. All right. He's a circumciser.
Interesting.
Wicked. Let me, I don't even want to go into it. But,
okay, but the point is you have to find a really unusual midwife from what you're saying.
You have to become conscious of what you really need. You know, if you really care to give birth to a special child, and if you're really filled with love, and you want love to be prevalent in your life, you have to seek the right people to help you. There's not a lot of us. I am one of those people, okay, because I can totally give people enough information where they can do this.
Well, and maybe you could help them know how to select a midwife that's going to be positive too for them.
Yes, exactly. And I can, I've done a lot of different types of work. Women come to me who they know that they're going to be put in high risk because they've had bad birth trauma. Some of their children have ended up autistic because of what was done to them during the birth process.
Right.
So I can help them get through their pregnancy without going to the medical people, and give birth to their children. But they're willing to heal their birth trauma, you see, and that's how they end up being able to give birth gently. And they're willing to do it, and they do it, and it's amazing what's happened for these people.
I think, two things we need to leave people with, because we've just got a couple minutes here, is one, it seems to me, see if you would agree, that it would be really helpful for people to read your books. And then the other thing is, if they want to talk to you or do something, some kind of consultation or something, in direct connection, how they do that. So both of those things, how to get the books and how to get in touch with you.
Well, you can go to my website, which is birthofanewearth.com, birthofanewearth.com. So you can find out all kinds of information about my books, my parenting program, and you can email me at janicebarcelo@yahoo.com if you're interested in doing private work, consultations. Right. My parenting program starts at the beginning of October, so it's coming up for people that are willing to go deep into a 20-week preparatory process. That program is very, very important. And again, it's not for everybody. It's for people who really are committed to love and to bringing children to this earth in love. And get, it's like we're at a time right now.
Yeah, I really agree with that.
We're at a crossroads. Are we going to continue on the Luciferian path, or are we going to choose the path of love and of God's good?
Right.
And if you're choosing God's good, please contact me. I can support you, especially in the creation of children who will be born in a way that is filled with love. And this can heal the earth.
I was just going to say that. I think the incoming presence of kids who are, in their forgotten normal state would have a huge impact on the atmosphere around the whole planet.
It would change everything.
Yeah.
I don't even think evil could exist in the face of beings that are emanating that much love.
Yeah.
The way our Creator designed it.
I agree. People that were going toward evil would have second thoughts and would change because of that influence.
Yeah, or they might even disappear from our reality entirely.
If they're not willing to change, yeah. Exactly. I think one of those two things.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be something to exist in a reality where evil didn't exist?
I don't see any really good reason that it's necessary anymore.
No.
I mean, it's just a consciousness test. And if people feel like they don't have time to do what they need to do, or if they're willing to be courageous enough to heal themselves, because that leads to everything else, then those are the two choices.
And please don't lie to yourselves and say, oh, evil is necessary, it's bringing balance. It's not bringing balance. It's only bringing evil. And we can see things are way out of balance. Our earth is on the brink of annihilation because of this radiation.
Well, I totally agree. And there's a lot of people going into various forms of evil, in other words, hurting people on purpose, that don't need to do that. There's no big benefit to them all just falling the rest of the way. They could turn around.
So many could turn around. So many could turn around. And people are participating in evil and they don't know it. Like I mentioned, the pesticides, I mean, so many people are participating.
It's this lazy convenience attitude. Well, everybody else is doing it. The scientists said it's a good idea. If we didn't poison all the food, everybody would starve to death. And I mean, we get used to real nonsense in every field. Common sense is considered unscientific now.
Well, that's the satanic thought, I feel like much of science has been introduced in order to keep us away from actually knowing.
Well, you know that real science is the same as real spiritual exploration. It says, I just want to know what's true. I'll even drop my own beliefs if they're incorrect. I just want to know whatever's real and true, because that's going to get me to the source. And that used to be science. And now it's memorization of acceptable material.
And it's worse than that. A lot of it's such fraud, and I mean, there's so much.
Yeah, it's full of malevolent energy now too.
It is. It's satanic.
Yeah,
Science has become satanic.
But the light side is much stronger. It's the only way that evil can continue is if we stay totally unconscious. And I think that's the central high priority of the program. Keep everybody unaware. So
there's no way you can stay unaware if you listen to this. If you've listened to this whole program, you've become aware of some very important components.
Yeah, and it leads to everything else because it's all connected.
Yeah.
So my hope for this little discussion that we had is that it could become a teaching tool in itself, and hopefully you can use it in a lot of ways that could have an effect on people, because there's powerful energy in it.
Yeah, and I hope it touches people's hearts enough for them to say, I want to get on the path toward the good. I want to be part of this great turnaround back to God.
It's more fun than anything evil anyway.
Right on. It'll be a lot better. You'll have a lot better life.
That's right.
Have a lot more joy.
There's really no downside.
Right on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hold on and we'll say goodbye in the break here. Okay, there goes Jeanice Barcelo. I hope that you guys got something out of that. That was a pretty heavy-duty discussion, in my opinion, but a lot of really potentially beneficial things to absorb, learn from, and really change direction in a positive way, especially if you're wrapped up in parts of medical agendas that you really would like a better alternative to. Jeanice has a lot to say about that. And remember her 3 books, which I haven't read because I just found out about Jeanice recently, thanks to a listener who made the recommendation. But I get the feeling like all 3 of her books would be very valuable to read. The first one is Birth Trauma and the Dark Side of Modern Medicine. And the second one is The Dark Side of Prenatal Ultrasound and the Dangers of Non-Ionizing Radiation, which ultrasound is one example of. And then the third one is Are Wireless Devices Really Safe? Fortunately, I wrote down those, plus her websites. You can, I think, get all 3 of those books now at birthofanewearth.com. And she has another site which sounds educational, and that's radiationdangers.com. And anybody that wants to consider working with her, she gave out her personal contact email, which is Jeanice Barcelo, Jeanice Barcelo, Barcelo at yahoo.com. And so, you don't have to commit to anything. You can just write her and ask her a question, see if it would be useful to do something with her. And she's got these classes coming up. She's got a in-depth class for expectant parents that apparently is going to start in October. I didn't know about that. That could be valuable. I think it might be one of these 20-week parenting programs. And she's got courses. I think she has one specifically for men that are about to become parents or are parents already. A lot of valuable work that she's doing. So take a look at all those resources. That's something I just recently found out about, and I think that she's a rare source of certain elements of that information that you almost never come across. And she's talking about it from experience, which is the best way. So I just I'm still personally in the process of absorbing. I hadn't talked to her before this show, and I think there's a lot to absorb and use in what we talked about. Hopefully you got something out of it too. And remember that this was our Sunday show, but we have shows on Saturday, also called Lost Arts Radio Live at 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 Eastern Time, usually related to current events in some way. And then we have our private club meeting starting half an hour after that. So the Lost Arts Radio Live show will end, and then 30 minutes later, more or less, unless we go over on the first show, which we don't usually, but it does happen. At 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern, we have Planetary Healing Club, which is a meeting place for the people that want to take all this to the next step. And all the action that you can do in the physical world, all the groups you could join, and all the causes you could work for, trying to get things done or things stopped or things changed. What I found anyway, and you can see what you think, is that the effect of your participation in those outer activities is really in proportion to the inner work that you do on yourself to get your physical health back as much as you can, and also your consciousness, which is a vast subject. And we talk about both of those in Planetary Healing Club. So if you want to see where that's accessed, there's a portal to get into that club at planetaryhealingclub.com. I'm about to put another one or more videos out about trying to explain more what the club is about so you can know whether it's something you'd be interested in or not. And for people that are already in it, that are just joining, I know I have to put up a video that brings them up to speed with everybody who's been there for a while, because I want it to be easy access and maximum value to anybody that signs up for it and tries it out. The whole point of it is to share information that you're not going to run into all in one place, really anywhere else that I know of. And then be able to use it, and the whole point is, you get maximum benefit out of it. So members can let me know what out of these vast range of things that we can go into you're interested in. And if it's in the range of stuff that's been in my research career of the last 55 years or so, then we can talk about it. And it'd be nice to have you join us if you feel like it. And that's planetaryhealingclub.com. The other thing is we don't do commercials on these radio programs, and we're trying to get money to buy a school, not buy a school, build a school from scratch, according to very specific criteria that are connected to things that happened a long time ago, adapted to conditions now. And I'd like to see that happen while we still have time, before it becomes too late on this level. So, we get a little bit of money from the club dues. We don't have nearly enough people to really support building a school yet, but anybody that wants to donate to keep us on the air and to get our projects done, if you have the resources to do that without intruding on what you need for yourself, then you can find a donate button at lostartsradio.com or lostartsresearchinstitute.org, which is our nonprofit that is in charge of the whole thing, or at subscribestar.com, subscribestar.com/lostartsradio. And just in case you need a non-censored place to find us, that's brighteon.com/channel/lostartsradio. And that's advanced to the point where you can subscribe to that channel to get notified of new videos, and it's free. So you might want to do that. And we're just starting to post some things on Parler and Gab, and hopefully we'll get more of a presence there as it becomes possible. I think that's about it. So be aware of all of our shows and of the private club meetings that you're invited to. If you want to have any feedback or questions or anything, or tell me if you like this really intense show tonight and if it was something that you feel was beneficial for you. I hope so. That's the point of all of them. And if we had one main message, I think it's that you're the star of the whole show, and you're not the limited, defenseless, helpless person who doesn't know anything, that relies on all these experts. You're told that because the opposite is true. And if we wake up to our real potential and our normal abilities that we forgot a long time ago, that will turn things around on this level. But we have to do it soon, because things are getting intense. So I'm inviting you to take your real role in this whole thing. And it's something amazing. And it's not selfless. You'll benefit more than anybody. We're all, affected by everything that happens and by each other. So anybody that takes responsibility and said, yeah, I'm going to become conscious, I'm going to get physically healthy, I'm going to do all these things and change my lifestyle in ways that help me so that I'll have something to share with other people, not by what you say, but what you become, then even one person can have this massive effect. And we'll see what happens from that. So you got your invitation, and thanks for being here. It was nice to share the show with you, and we'll see you again next time. Take care of yourself.